Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. Noah St. John wants you to be a success. Today, he'll show us how. Noah, thanks for being with us today.
It's great to be here, Bill.
Now, Noah, you've written a book that I told you and admit I love this book. You said I did my homework, but I said I did my pleasure work because really it was fun reading it, going through it, and now I get to talk to you about it. You begin your book entitled Power Habits and say that we have three options that will define us. What are those options?
Well, I tell the story of when I was on the top of a mountain about to go on a zip line for my honeymoon. And I took my wife on a zip line adventure, and I was terrified out of my mind. I was absolutely scared. I didn't want to be there. And I realized as I was getting ready to go on the zip line that I had three options that would define the rest of my life. The first option was I could go back and just say, forget the whole thing. But we were actually on the top of a mountain in the middle of a Caribbean rainforest, and the truck that had brought us had already left. So I couldn't go back. And I said, well, wait a minute, that option's gone. I can't go back. And then the second option, I said, well, I could just stay right here where I am. And then I said, of course, well, that doesn't work either because I can't just stay here and they're going to leave me stranded at the top of a mountain. And then I realized that the only real option is to move forward. Right. And to take what I call a step of faith. Now, notice I didn't say a leap of faith, even though it was ziplining. I was at the top of a mountain looking down into infinity. But I realized that it was really just a step of faith. Most motivational speakers out there, they say, you got to leap and the net will appear. And I go, listen, I've interviewed over 200 very, very successful people, millionaires, multimillionaires, even a few billionaires. Not one of them has leapt and hoped the net appears. You know, that's crazy. That's a recipe for disaster. What they do is they take calculated risks. And so, but the point is our brains, Bill, you know, when I was standing there looking down into infinity at the top of a mountain, I literally heard my brain say, we're going to die right now. We are about to die. And I realized, well, wait a minute, that's not really true. Even though I feel it's true, that's really not true. So anyway, I took that step of faith. And of course, I had a great time. So what the moral of the story is for everyone listening is that those are the three choices we have. We can choose to go back, we can choose to stay where we are, or we can choose to go forward. But the irony is the first two are lies. You can't go back and you can't stay where you are either. And so the only real choice, the only actual choice is, in fact, to take a step of faith, to take that step forward. Now, you can either go through life coming from fear or you can come from faith. And so I chose to take that step of faith. And, you know, the people who work with me, my coaching clients and, you know, so forth, and the people that I work with over the last 20 years, you know, have taken those steps with me. And of course, we've helped people make a lot of money, lose a lot of weight, and use what we call the power habits. That's why the book is entitled Power Habits, the New Science for Making Success Automatic.
Well, you really put it out clearly for us. And obviously, for people like me who are lazy, we want it right there, handed to us. Give me that little pill that'll make me thin. I want to still eat chocolate cake and ice cream, but we want to do it. And you honestly, it can't get much more simpler than what you lay out in the book, but you take us through the problems other people have had, and you make it pleasurable too. You say in the book, thinking is far worse than doing. Explain what that means.
Well, just like being on the top of that mountain, I didn't tell you the full story. I tell the full story in the book. The story is actually really, really good. I had to give you the condensed version just for time's sake here on the program. But the point is that I was thinking about taking this step of faith and going on the zip line. And in my head, I heard we are definitely going to die right now. I mean, we're going to die, right? So my point is that, isn't it true that sometimes you think about doing something and it's so awful in your mind? You think about making that phone call to that prospective client. You think about talking to the girl or the guy on the other side of the room. You think about starting an exercise program. You think about maybe writing a book or starting an online business or whatever it is that, you know, so many people are facing right now with all of these changes that's happening in the world that we've been, you know, facing for the last year and a half. And so we're thinking about it and it's just so awful. And then all of a sudden you do it, you make the phone call, you talk to the guy or the girl and you start to, and you're like, what was I worried about? That really wasn't so bad. What was the big deal? Right. And that's what I mean by thinking is much worse than doing. When you take the step, the fear just dissipates, but you have to punch fear in the face in order to do that. You have to leave what I call your familiar zone, not your comfort zone. All the motivational speakers out there talk, and by the way, I'm not a motivational speaker. I had one of my clients years ago said to me, "Noah, you're not a motivational speaker, you're a motivating speaker." And I thought, that's a really cool distinction. And she said the difference is because a motivational speaker gets you all pumped up and then realize there's no there. There's just a bunch of fluff and air, And she said, with you gave me a step-by-step approach so I could actually reach my goals. So you motivated me. I thought that was a nice distinction. But anyway, my point is that they're all talking about leaving your comfort zone, but there's no such thing as a comfort zone. A comfort zone doesn't exist because, if you're holding yourself back, if you want to lose weight or make more money or start your business and you're not doing it, it's actually not comfortable at all. It's decidedly uncomfortable. But what it is familiar. It might be familiar to you, even though you don't like it. So what I help people do with power habits and what I show you in the book and in our coaching and our training programs is I show you how to expand your familiar zone so that yes, it's always going to be fear, but you actually, the more that you take those steps of faith, then you just punch fear in the face and then you can do things you thought were impossible.
Now, one of the things, and we talked before the show, I think it's on page 26 in your book, you have the comments that you get from a lot of your clients. And as I'm looking down this list, I'm thinking, boy, that's probably going to take in about 90% of our listeners. So could you tell us some of the, I guess, if in some cases it's a fear or reaction that people have?
Yes, absolutely. So I call these the 4 main frustrations that people, teams, organizations have told me have been greatly reduced or even eliminated when they follow my power habit system. Number 1, I often feel that when opportunity presents itself, I won't be in the right place or I won't have the courage to take advantage of it. Right. So it's kind of like saying, when my ship comes in, I'm at the wrong pier.
Exactly.
So, that's one. Number 2 is I feel like there's a ceiling on my success, even though I've spent tons of money on personal growth or professional development programs, right? People go to self-help programs. I call it shelf help, right? People have a lot of shelf help at home. Number 3, I know I need to I know that I need to change some of my habits, but I don't know where to start. I don't know what changes I need to make. And I really don't know how to make those changes last. They're watching a lot of YouTube videos and saying, oh, I can do it, get all pumped up. And then, of course, it just doesn't last. And then number 4, I feel like I've reached a certain level of success in my life and my business, but I know I'm capable of so much more. And so if you can relate to any of those, any of you folks who are listening, definitely Power Habits is what we can help you with. I mean, that is the resource that can help you.
And it really is. And that's why I wanted people to hear that, because I think so many of us, either 1, 2, or 3 of them, or maybe like me, almost all 4 of them, I hate to admit, but it's holding us back. And once we realize that, even something as simple as an email, when you said, just get out there and overcome that fear, I was about to send it. I was thinking too much into it. Should I send it? Maybe someone will misread it, Send it. What's going to happen? Very few people got shot with a spear gun or a cannon because they sent an email that, and it wasn't an offensive email. It was just a very common one.
Right.
You mentioned in your book that everything we desire is on the other side of fear. What does that mean in terms of our life's goal and blueprint for success?
Absolutely. So going back to what I was just saying about the familiar zone, again, remember, there's no such thing as a comfort zone, even though every motivational speaker says that there isn't. It's a lie. So there is a familiar zone, though, meaning you're familiar with what you have. If you're making $5,000 a month, that's what you're familiar with. If you're making $10,000 a month, you're familiar with that, or whatever it might be. Or if you're familiar with a certain weight or a certain type of relationship, right? So we help people with power habits. It's really, people say to me, Noah, you fix the problem that causes every other problem. If you think about it, because where don't your habits affect you? What part of your life don't your habits affect you? Well, your habits affect everything, right? They affect your health, your wealth, your relationships, your social life, your intimate life. I mean, there's no place your habits don't affect you. But the point is, it's so hard to identify those habits sometimes. And then, of course, what changes to make. So when I say that everything you desire is on the other side of fear, that's exactly what I'm talking about, because you have your familiar zone. So think about it like this little circle or bubble that we all live in, right? And then right over there is the thing that I want. And that's like, but oh shoot, it's outside of my bubble. So guess what? That on the other side of that bubble or what is right between you and the thing you want. I call that your pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? Going from where you are to where you want to be. There's that bubble. That bubble is called fear. Now, of course, for some people, it's a bubble that you can poke very easily, and some it's like feels like a brick wall, right? So it just depends on many, many factors, like how long it's been, or type of situation it is, and so forth. So there's a lot of variables. But the point is, everything you desire is on the other side of fear. So what the point for everyone listening is, if you're waiting to take action until you're not afraid, you'll wait forever and you'll never take action. I mean, when I wrote my very first book over 20 years ago, I was living in a 300 square foot basement apartment. And I had, $800 to my name, and I didn't know anything about marketing or sales or online or anything like that. It was before blogs, before YouTube, before social media. And I said, you know what? I just have a deep burning desire to make a difference, to help people, to have an impact all around the world. And that's why I wrote my first book, which was entitled Permission to Succeed. Now I've, published 15 books in 18 languages, but every single step, there's always that fear, no matter where you are, no matter who you are. So just get started, take a little action every day, and that will help to bust through that bubble of fear.
Noah, before we go any further, I just want to let our audience know that if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, but the wonderful person you're listening to today is Noah St. John. He's the author of Power Habits. And Noah, as always, we're going to ask you where we can get this book and if there's a website where we can learn more.
PowerHabitsBook.com, very easy to remember. PowerHabitsBook.com. That's where you can get the book, and also up to $500 in bonuses when you order the book at PowerHabitsBook.com. And my main website is NoahSt.John.com. My name, Noah St. John, NoahStJohn, just like it sounds, NoahStJohn.com.
Easy enough to remember. We'll ask you that again if our audience didn't get it all down. And I will tell our audience that, truthfully, just as you're talking about it, if you want that blueprint for success, if you're saying, well, now I have to figure this out and figure that out, I'm busy, I'm working a job, 2 jobs, going to school, Noah has done it for you already. This is a book that, if you follow his instructions, you're going to be off to a great start. I don't want to promise something that may not be there, but I think that 98% or more of the people, if they do what you say, they're going to enjoy the life the way you do. And you say, and very openly in the book, you never thought you'd have all the things you want: happiness, a wonderful income, and doing work you enjoy, which I think if we could get those 3 things, anybody would sign up for it. So, well,
thank you, Bill. And I appreciate what you said. And yes, I mean, I talk about what we call a freedom lifestyle. That's, why many people go into business, as entrepreneurs, but even if you have a job or a career that you just love, the 4 things you want are time, energy, relationships, and money, right? We want an abundance of time. I want to be able to do the things that I want to do when I want to do them. I want an abundance of energy, right? I want to feel good at the end of the day, not be all blah and tired and, blah. But I want an abundance of happy relationships, good relationships, healthy relationships. And of course, we want an abundance of money, right? I mean, people who say money doesn't buy happiness clearly don't know where to shop. And also, as the great philosopher David Lee Roth once said, money might not be able to buy happiness, but it can buy a yacht so you can pull right up next to it.
Oh, I hadn't heard that, but I love it. I think that's perfect. Noah, you begin one of the chapters in your book with this quote: "Successful people aren't born that way. They become successful by establishing the habit of doing things unsuccessful people won't do." So in effect, as I'm reading that, and that's from Thackeray, but you're saying that we have to do something different and kind of get out of that, as you term it, the familiar zone. You mentioned that 2 very important parts of whether we're going to be successful or not are inner and outer communication. Mm-hmm. That's a different approach. So can you tell our audience what you mean by that?
Absolutely. So if you look at your life, I mean, everybody listening, look at what is your life, right? And I strongly believe, and this is based on over 20 years of experience helping our clients add over $2 billion in sales. That means we've helped, our clients add 6 figures and multiple 6 and 7, and yes, even 8 figures, and also help them lose weight and be happy and have happy relationships and so forth. But really, we live in 2 worlds. The quality of your life depends on the quality of your communication with the 2 worlds that you live in. The first world you live in is the world inside of you. I call that your inner game. Your inner game is when you are talking to you, right? So that's your beliefs, your thoughts, your priorities, decisions. Those are things that are invisible to the rest of the world, but they affect everything that you do. As I said earlier, where don't your habits affect you? Your habits affect everything. Your beliefs affect everything. So that's your inner game or inner environment. And then the second is your outer environment. That's what everybody sees. That's the outer, your habits, your lifestyle, the systems and strategies. That's your career, your business or whatever it might be. And so the point is, it's only when you master your inner game and your outer game that you have the phenomenon called success. So let me give you an example. People who only focus on their inner game are very focused on, like say yoga and meditation. And those are great, great practices to do. But the problem is maybe they've ignored their outer game. So that's where you have what I call a highly evolved broke person, right? They're very evolved and they're spiritual, but I got no money, right? And that kind of sucks. But then you also have people who've only focused on their outer game, and that's maybe they're very successful on the outside, but maybe they're empty inside. That's where you have like an Elvis Presley, a Robin Williams, right? A Chris Farley, a John Belushi, right? The stories are rampant. There's so many, unfortunately, throughout history. People who were rich and famous had everything on the outside, and yet their inner game, they didn't have it, or it was suffering, or it was faulty. So it's exactly like building a house, right? With a house, you have to have a strong foundation, and you have to have all the stuff that goes on the inside that you don't see. Like, for example, electricity, right? Imagine if you have a house and you don't have any electricity. Not much fun to live in, right? It's like, well, it's a nice house, but it's kind of hard to live in. And then, of course, if you don't have a house at all, well, then you're kind of homeless. So you have to have both of those things.
No, I would tell you just, and I was thinking as you're talking about the inner and outer game, if a small negative thing happens to me, and if I get a letter or a bill I didn't expect, I will multiply that all day into a giant cloud or a storm. I'll think of it 12, 15, 50 times during the day. And I'm asking myself why. I let that rule the day instead of all the good things that happen. And most of my life is many good things, sometimes simple, sometimes wonderful things. Right. Meeting you, talking to wonderful authors like yourself. When you deal with a lot of people, what do you find usually stops people the most from reaching that stage that they would like? Is it self-imposed? Is it outside? Is it just they're not ready for the field they want to go into?
Well, if you look at where you are to where you want to be, right? That's where I call going from your CPR to your NDR. And I do talk about that in the book, Power Habits. So again, that's powerhabitsbook.com. But so going from your CPR to your NDR, that means your current perceived reality to your new desired reality, right? So where you are to where you want to be, right? And between those two things, your CPR to your NDR, there's a gap. Now, there are 4 types of gaps that can keep you from getting to your pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. They are a knowledge gap, a skills gap, a support gap, and a belief gap. All right. So a knowledge gap means I don't know what to do. A skills gap is I don't know how to do it. A support gap is I don't have anybody believing in me, right? I don't have anyone in my corner. It's kind of like, Rocky going into the ring without, Burgess Meredith there in the corner helping him, right? It's kind of tough. And then the 4th gap is a belief gap. That means, I don't think I can do it, right? So going back to my example that I said earlier, I had all of those gaps going in when I wrote my first book over 20 years ago. And I realized that I don't care, right? I just got to have to move forward because what I had was a deep burning desire, which I call a why to. When you have a strong enough why to or strong enough because, this is also one of the power habits that I talk about in the book, but I talk about finding your because. When you find your because, when your why to is strong enough, you overcome any obstacle. So what I often say to my clients, and for all of you listening, you can write this down. When you find the why, you find the way. Right? When you find a why, you find a way. I'm sure we've all heard stories of, like moms who were single moms and maybe they had 3 or 4 kids and all of a sudden their husband died and they had to find a way to provide for their kids. Well, guess what? They did it, right? Why? Because they had to, right? Their why was so strong that they found the way. So when you find the why, you find the way. And that's one of the reasons that I've been able to succeed, coming from nothing, from a 300 square foot basement apartment to now, a 7,000 square foot mansion on the top of a hill. All these years later, really just every step of the way, having to face that fear, having to overcome that fear every step of the way. So, going back to your quote, Bill, that you said, that successful people do what unsuccessful people won't do, successful people have the same fears, the same, I don't know if I can do it, the same disbeliefs or not believing themselves that everybody else does. But what they do is they take action anyway. And that's what I highly recommend, for our clients. But of course, you also have to overcome those gaps that I just talked about.
I love that. And I wrote it down. I think that's the title of your next book. When you find the why, you find the way. And just a quick anecdote back to when he was alive. My father-in-law once went to a doctor and he said, "Do you smoke?" He said, "Yes." He said, "You have a son?" "Yep." "How old is he?" 12. "Do you want to be there at his wedding?" He said, "Well, yes." He said, "You keep smoking, you're not going to make the wedding." Nice. My father-in-law immediately stopped smoking. He found the why. He wanted to be there for his son's wedding, and he lived to be there because I don't know how he did it, because I hear that's very difficult. I'm not a smoker, but he was able to change his life immediately and cut out the smoking, and it worked for him.
That's a perfect example.
Noah, once again, I want our audience to know that if they're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Bill Horan. I'm here with our guest, Noah St. John. His book is Power Habits, and he's going to tell us where we can get the book and a website where we can find out more information.
PowerHabitsBook.com. Again, the title is Power Habits, the New Science for Making Success Automatic. PowerHabitsBook.com, along with up to $500 in special bonuses when you order the book at PowerHabitsBook.com. And also our main website, NoahStJohn.com. That's my name, NoahStJohn.com, just like it sounds, NoahStJohn.com.
And we always tell our audience that if you are really serious about this, we're glad if you're listening to the show. But if you're serious about your success, and we certainly are, we've gotten the greatest people in the world to be on our show and to talk to our audience, you have to take some action. Don't just sit there and wait for this to come to you. Noah's giving you some great ideas, some great thoughts to spur you on, but take the action and do something. Go to that website, find out a little more, see what made Noah famous, what helped him get over the hurdles in life, and what you can adopt from that to make your life that much better. Noah, we talk about a blueprint for success, and when I'm reading your book, I'm thinking how much sense that makes. I don't know anybody who would try to build a garage, a basement, even a simple desk without some type of blueprint. And yet, and I have many friends who are professional people and quite bright. They have several postgraduate degrees. And if you say, what's your plan or how are you going to do this? Forget that. It doesn't. What is that mystery about just putting down either a simple plan or a blueprint? Can you get us over that hurdle?
Absolutely. And so, it's a great point, Bill, because we were taught growing up that if you, get good grades and, listen to your elders and fall in line and then, go to a good college and then you'll get a good job and then you work for 40 years and then you can have fun after that. And I'm going, that sounds insane. I mean, who signed up for that? I mean, what? And of course that worked for hundreds of years or whatever, maybe 100, 150 years when we had an agrarian society. So all of that was what most of us were raised with. But nowadays, when we have with the internet and, we teach people about digital marketing, we have courses to help them like 30K income secrets and millionaire habits retreats. So we help people actually put these things in place so they actually change their life. So they add that 6 or 7 or 8 figures like our clients do. You can see, tons of stories on our website. But the point is that, you ask people what their plan is and they weren't taught how to plan. So it's not their fault. It's not that they're dumb or stupid or not motivated. None of us were taught any of this stuff. So, I'm just the nerdiest nerd in the industry, right? In the personal growth industry. I went and I, read all these books and said, oh my gosh, we weren't taught any of this stuff in school. We weren't taught anything really useful. Let's face it.
Yes, right.
It's a lot of years wasted, which makes me angry, because it's like, gosh, you can't get those years back. So anyway, that's why, of course, the personal development industry is exploding right now. It's a multi-billion dollar industry because people are frankly just trying to catch up. Like, oh my gosh, I got to figure out what to do here. How can I make money? How can I do what I want to do? Have as I told you earlier, the freedom lifestyle, have the time, the energy, the relationships, and the money that I really, really want, and do it on my terms. And so we weren't taught this stuff in school. I wasn't taught it. So, you have to learn. And the problem is that there's a lot of, so-called gurus out there that are really, really great at self-promotion. They're great at hype, but they suck at teaching. They can't teach their way out of a paper bag. And I know because I paid them over $500,000 only to get nothing, really. There's no there, and I'm like, thanks a lot, guys. So anyway, the point is what we do with our clients is we actually show them, we give them that blueprint. And, we do it by, there's 2 types of parenting, right? There's the critical parent, which kind of wags your finger and you go, why didn't you do this? And no. And then you're like, oh, brother. So we try to be more like the nurturing parent, like, okay, come on, you can do this. I know you can do it. I believe in you. You got this. Now, we got to do some work. We got to put some things in place, just like building a house. It doesn't just happen by snapping your fingers and it doesn't magically happen with, fairy dust and unicorn. But, we have to actually do the work. So for people who are willing to do the work, who are willing to put in the effort, the great news is, like, for example, when you talk about the online education market, you can build something one time and then sell it until the end of time. For example, I build programs like Power Habits Academy and 6 Figure Machine, and I have all of these online education programs, affirmations.com and on. And I build it one time and, I sell it every single day. So it's amazing that you can actually build something once and then sell it forever. And then what that does is that gives you that freedom. It allows you to, instead of just trading time for money, you stop sacrificing your time for money, and it actually enables you to expand, your impact, but also your influence, and also really increase your income. So it's really, really powerful.
No, that's a great lead into the next topic, and I took it obviously right from your book. I look at a Saturday morning, I say, well, I have to go to the bank, I have to go to the cleaners, I might move a few things out of the garage, and then, of course, I have to watch the local baseball team play because they can't play well without me, and then maybe it'll take me half an hour to decide where I want to go for dinner and what jacket I want to wear and pants, etc. And what I'm getting at is the part of your book that talks about low value and high value activities. Mm-hmm. How does that affect our success? And I think that applies to most of us, certainly me.
Well, absolutely. And I call that the income happiness graph. And that's where we have, there are two types of activities, low value and high value. And then there are two types of what I call aptitude, meaning things that you suck at and things that you're great at, right? And so if you have things that you're great at that are low value, then you have what's called a hobby. Nothing wrong with that. It's just, a lot of people think they own a business when really they own a hobby. And then you have low value activities that you suck at that you don't really like. That's called busy work. Then you have high value activities that you don't really enjoy. And that's called the Golden Handcuffs. So a lot of people actually are making six figures, but they're unhappy. They're miserable because they're not doing what they want to do. The money's great, but the fulfillment just isn't there. And so that's why with our clients, Bill, what we help them do is what we call high value activities that you're great at, that you love. And that's what we call living your dream, living that dream lifestyle where you have the time, the energy, the relationships, and the money that you really want. Now, that is certainly not to suggest that you should be working all the time. There's a lot of gurus out there that say, if you're not working on Christmas Eve, you're a loser. Right. You got to work all 18 hours a day. And if you sleep, you're a dum-dum. And I'm like, are you serious right now? And then, of course, you got the other side of the spectrum, which is if you work more than 4 hours a week, then you're an idiot. And it's like, oh, okay, either I'm a loser or I'm an idiot. This is great. It's like, wait a minute. So what we like to do at Success Clinic, my company, successclinic.com, we like to take the middle ground. And it's like, look, okay, no, you shouldn't work on Christmas Eve. And you probably have to work a little bit more than 4 hours a week, but it's okay because you're doing what you love. And that's the type of thing that we want to help people do. Literally, I call it productizing your genius, taking what's in your head, the experience, the knowledge that you've spent a lifetime to accumulate, but it's not packaged up. That's why, if you look at my books, my online programs, my coaching, my courses, my retreats, they're just different packages, taking what I've done, what I've spent lots and lots of money and lots of years of my life to study and to master, and then being able to sell it to other people so that they can get the things that they want. And so those are the things that we help people with, to get those packages together so that you can leverage. And then that way you can get like a 10 or 15 or 50x return on your money, which we've seen over and over again with our clients.
No, I see on your shirt you have just what you're talking about, live your dream. This is what we all want. So I'm going to ask you once again before we wrap up, where can we get the book Power Habits, and is there a website we can learn more?
PowerHabitsBook.com, PowerHabitsBook.com. The book is Power Habits, the new science for making success automatic. And yes, we can make your success automatic. PowerHabitsBook.com, along with up to $500 in bonuses. And our main website, NoahSt.John.com, NoahStJohn. That's my name, NoahStJohn.com, with lots of great resources there, including our shop where you can learn about our retreats and our coaching. And also, if you want to bring me in to speak for your organization or your group, NoahStJohn.com.
Easy enough to remember, and thank you, Noah. You've given us that blueprint for success. We'll follow you, and you timed it perfectly to wrap up today. We'd like our audience to know that if you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at the same time when we will continue our journey to success.